Royal Naval Air Station at Culdrose, a resounding counterpart to the quiet farmlands and tourist playgrounds of Cornwall's Lizard Peninsula. It's Europe's largest and busiest helicopter base, and it's also home to the Navy's unique Rotary Club, the Flying Sharks.
Culdrose approach, this is Shark Leader.
Shark Lady, loud and clear.
Shark formation outbound from the airfield 1,000 feet to 1009. Operate in formation area Yankee between 500 and 1,500 feet.
Flying a helicopter is even less natural in that it's a machine that doesn't really want to fly. It's a balancing act, a bit like patting your head and rubbing your stomach and standing on a beach ball all at the same time.
Every flight is different. Even though you might be doing a very similar flight to the last flight, you will still learn something else. You are still developing your own personal skills, which I think most pilots endeavour to do. You never reach a stage where you're happy with your own flying.
I don't think you can say it's potentially very dangerous, because I, for one, if I thought that was the case, wouldn't do it. I think every pilot needs a very high degree of self-preservation. Any slight slip-up could have hazardous consequences, but if we didn't trust each other implicitly, we wouldn't do it.
It's a mixture between elation and being slightly wary. You know what to do, but you're never quite sure whether you're actually going to be able to produce it.
People talk about natural pilots. I don't think there is such a thing, because flying's not a natural environment for a person anyway. Obviously, there's a certain amount of natural ability needs to be there to have that coordination in the first place. But it's just a long learning process to achieve that skill, really.
I think the thing that turns me on about flying is that it takes a large amount of concentration. You're having to work and put 100% into it all the time, and therefore there's not particularly much time to get bored. And you have a chance, really, to go for your own goal and improve yourself as you get more and more experience. I've watched every practice and display, and it's up to me at the end of the display to say, that was good, that was bad, we can tighten up or loosen up a little bit here. So to a certain extent I am the choreographer, so to speak, of the display, and I have to be critical to make sure we have a good performance. This year I set my heart on doing the manager's job. Next year I'll be flying. I think the glory to a certain extent is with the flying side of it.
For the Navy's only helicopter display team, rehearsals have to be threaded into a hectic air traffic schedule that sees more movements per day than Heathrow Airport. The air station is not so much a suburb as a sister town to nearby Helston. It has a population of 3,000 and is the home of 9 separate squadrons covering the range of naval flying from early warning to air-sea rescue. And it's here that every naval helicopter pilot comes to earn his wings with 705 Squadron. Even pilots whose mother owns the firm aren't exempt from the Culdrose Airborne classroom. For pilots of whatever social rank, the early flights bring moments of dizzy delight.
I can remember the first time I went solo in a helicopter after the slog of the practice actually being let loose in this aircraft. And the sense of elation as I lifted away and flew around the circuit was just amazing. And I can remember singing as I was downwind in the circuit. I was just singing to myself. I was so pleased to be up there on my own and feeling what it was like. It was all over in an absolute flash. You're only up there for about 2 or 3 minutes, but it was a fantastic feeling.
Shocks briefing for this morning, guys, 08 to 0830. Aircraft and crews as per the board. We're all in our usual aircraft, spare 540. All aircraft are full fuel and R4 shut down on return. Okay, before we go into the display, let's have the Met, please, Aaron.
The surface wind this morning is 060, 9 to 15 knots, meaning about 12, which gives us on...
The Sharks team was formed in 1974. While other branches of the services maintain full-time display units, these men are instructors by profession and rise at the crack of dawn to rehearse their show before the day's work begins. In the early days, the display was true to the British amateur spirit, a few hours of exhilaration for instructors desperate to wrest the controls from their students. Gradually, it's changed.
Basically, it's become a little bit more professional, I think. It started off very much in a sort of gentlemanly workup for just the 3 naval air days. But over the years, the team has become more popular. More shows have been required of the team, and because of that, we've had more practices, and generally it's become more professional all around, I think.
The Gazelle is the L-plate helicopter, but it takes a lot of skill to fly as badly as this. The manoeuvre is known as the old lady routine, when a member of the team in drag apparently hijacks the helicopter and unseats the pilot. Its purpose, besides a minute or so of flying circus, is to show the agility of the plane. The Sharks have always believed in taking their craft to the limits. Only once of the risks entailed produced tragic results. In June 1977.
In those days we were actually flying with 6 aircraft, where 2 aircraft actually collided in the air. We don't know the reason even now why it happened. A lack of concentration or a malfunction, we don't really know. Both aircraft went into the water from about 200 feet, and the impact killed both the pilots. The displays for that year, and at that time the Sharks were still working up in that particular year, were obviously cancelled. However, the team did fly 2 displays, which were particularly naval displays, not for the general public, really as a morale booster for the guys that remained more than anything else. In fact, I was actually involved in the formation, and though it makes you think, you can't stop your flying career just because of that. It's unfortunate, but you just have to push on with life and push on with formation flying because it's a requirement here. We have to teach it to the students, therefore we must get on and do it ourselves.
In the aftermath of the tragedy, the formation was reduced from 6 Gazelles to 4, but 705's confidence in its abilities was undiminished, and each year the instructors clamour for a place on the team.
This year I had 11 volunteers for 3 slots, so it's quite a popular job to do. From that point, we then have a little fly-off, a competition if you'd like to call it that. We're not necessarily looking for the best pilots, but we're looking for the guys that fit into a team and are compatible with one another. All the instructors are capable of flying in the formation. It's just getting the compatibility of the complete team, which of course, because we spend a lot of time together, both on the ground and in the air, is absolutely necessary.
You do have to get to know each other very well, and we start practicing this team in about March time. And just like you're building up a move for a rugby match or something like that, all our manoeuvres are carefully practiced each morning, and we get better and better and better as time goes on.
You eventually get to the stage where you're so familiar with it that it's not so much you strapping in the aircraft. You get in the aircraft and you strap it to your back, you know, and away you go.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and we wish you a warm welcome to Culdrose this afternoon from the Royal Navy's helicopter display team, Sharks Fly Navy.
My fiance's down here for the week at the moment. Her mother's down here as well, so that'll be great fun. It's the first time she's seen the display or seen me flying in the display. So I don't know if it'll be a bit of a shock to her or not.
Being a display helicopter pilot, is that good for pulling the birds, Paul?
I don't know how political I'll have to be in answering that question. Yes.
He always says that I was impressed when I first met him, and that's the reason why I carried on seeing him, because of all the sort of, what goes with a helicopter pilot. But in fact, I don't think I actually connected the two at all. And even now, when I see him fly, I don't connect him that with the person I know. I don't imagine him being up in that helicopter flying.
The aircraft have now changed from box to echelon port and will close shortly for the spectacular colonial break. Leader, go, 2, go, 3. Aircraft have opened out now into a long line of stern and reform as they turn into wind in echelon starboard.
Well, there is always a degree of tension before the show. I think the individuals cope with their own tension in their own way, and I suppose I'm the most experienced in the team, and I try and maintain a sort of status quo which doesn't get anybody too worried, or inversely keeps them on edge but not too relaxed. It's obviously dangerous to go one way or the other. Somehow we've got to maintain that happy centre line, which is a good show but a safe show, and that's the most important thing, for the thing to be safe.
Maintaining this echelon starboard as they pull up for the simultaneous wing over left.
It's something I've looked forward to for quite a long time now, and it's been an ambition of mine for a good two years or so. So it's quite something to actually achieve it and be here flying with the Sharks. So it's a great personal achievement. It's good personal satisfaction, I think, to actually be part of the team.
Well, it's what he wants to do. I mean, obviously it's a fantastic thing for him to do, so I wouldn't ever get in the way of that and stop him doing it because I thought it was too dangerous for him.
When we first formulated the display in February of this year, it was borne in mind we cannot offer you the noise and speed of a fixed-wing team. We can present a unique, tight, fast and furious display, keeping the aircraft within the airfield boundary, and we're not limited by the low cloud base this afternoon. The aircraft have now opened left and right for the crossover break with a closing speed of 250 knots. The aircraft will now pull up in two pairs, left and right, for simultaneous wing overs. Aircraft climbing to a height of 100 meters, rolling the aircraft tightly for a 180-degree turn.
Anybody on the squadron, if they wanted to, has got the required ability to do it. It's just that we've volunteered our services to do it. Any instructor, perhaps any people who aren't instructors at Coldrose could do it, I'm sure.
I don't really like knowing the time of his displays, because if I know he's going to be flying at 2 o'clock, when it comes near to 2 I start to worry. But if I don't know, I just don't think about it and I don't worry.
She knows that my self-preservation instinct is pretty damn strong, and if I was worried I wouldn't do it. When we come back from a display, she'll say, how's it gone? Did you have a good time? Did you enjoy it? But she won't come out and say, no, did you do anything dangerous? But I probably wouldn't tell her if something did go wrong.
Aircraft that forms swan formation before Jerry Woodham is about to be released for the spectacular solo display. Jerry pulls the aircraft up to a height of 100 meters and will display the full maneuverability of this aircraft.
If you're going to do a good solo display, I think the idea is to take the aircraft to the edge of its flight envelope, and yeah, really stretch it to the edge of its flight envelope without obviously being dangerous. That's not the idea. The idea is to do a smooth, crisp, impressive display. I get quite a kick out of flying in the formation, actually, because it's harder work. It takes a lot more concentration when there's 4 of you flying together. There isn't particularly anything difficult about flying an aircraft around on its own doing a solo display. It's quite a nice breather for me, in fact, to leave the display for 2 minutes to do my solo display. And it is a time to let the sweat get out of your helmet and have a bit of a breather.
Jerry's now carried out a tight 270-degree turn, and he's pulling up into a high hover at about 100 meters. I instructed Jerry not to attend any of the beef burger stalls this afternoon. You'll see why in a minute. Stand by, and he bunts the aircraft forward. Aircraft nose pointing vertically towards the ground in a tight 270-degree turn. pulls the aircraft up for a tight dumbbell maneuver. Back up to a speed of 90 knots as he pulls the aircraft up into a high hover. He's got to rejoin the other 3 aircraft. Now, can anybody see the other 3 aircraft in the display? Jerry's looking around for them. They've probably seen him. I think he's seen them. Now, they're not going to be kind enough to stop for Jerry. He's going to have to rejoin them on the run. He dives the aircraft down, accelerating, coming through a 270-degree turn, and rejoins the rear of the formation in box. A big hand for the solo display, Lieutenant Jerry Woodham. I suggest if you've got your cameras loaded and posed, point them in the middle of the crowd for the spectacular final Russian roulette break. Opening out of the streamline turn. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been watching this afternoon the Sharks Fly Navy. And what are you doing with my baby? What are you doing anyway? I'm Daddy. What is this?
She does have problems recognising who her daddy is. Well, she's 15 months old. She doesn't know that he's a pilot, but she does think that all helicopters are Daddy, because when I see one fly over in the garden, I point up to the sky and say, look, there's Daddy. And so now she calls all helicopters Daddy, but she doesn't call her Daddy Daddy. I don't think she sees him enough to know who he is. He's away so much.
No, it's not Daddy.
Where's Daddy? Where's Daddy?
Daddy does a different milk run tonight again. Daddy does a different milk run.
Where's
Daddy? Where's Daddy gone?
An average summer will bring the Sharks as many as 21 displays all over the country. But performances are never allowed to interfere with the task of training 80 students every year. Aspiring helicopter pilots come to Culdrose from RAF Leaming in Yorkshire, where they'll already have learned the rudiments of fixed-wing flying. The instructors spend 4 months with each student, instilling the skills and the rules of the Royal Naval Air Service.
What's rule number 1? Now we get separate ready for your kit. Where's our kit? Kemble.
705 Squadron's 19 Gazelles spend as many as 700 hours in the air each month, and the station has a team of civilian mechanics to keep the planes in top condition.
That's it. Through that one there.
The students divide their time between the classroom and the air, and in their 75 hours at the controls of the Gazelle, they're taught, and sometimes taught suddenly, to cope with any emergency.
Obviously, a helicopter can glide. It glides in where we call auto-rotate, and it can glide quite a distance, and it can still fly. Snag is you're only going one way, and that's down quite quickly. So it's always quite fun then to give him, for exercise, we don't actually chop the engine, but for exercise, give him an engine failure and see the look of horror as he goes hurtling towards a wooded hill or a pylon or something. Obviously that sharpens them up a bit, sharpens us up a little bit as well.
They do try and kill you from time to time because obviously they need to make mistakes, and you have to let them make mistakes because that's the only way they can learn. It's quite demanding because those situations can arrive very rapidly, so you have to be on your toes all the time.
I remember my first trip. I came down and I was really elated just by having sort of held it straight just for a while, just for a few seconds, and thinking to myself, well, maybe I will be able to do this in the end, you know, and it's a drive that you get from that point to say, yes, I'm going to be able to take this aircraft on and beat it and make it do what I want to do.
The skills the students learn and the tricks with which the Sharks enthrall the crowds are all designed with one grim application quietly in mind: the art of warfare. Paul McIntosh, one of the current performers in the Red Gazelles, put those skills to practical use in the South Atlantic.
I think like everybody else in 1982 it came a bit of a shock to us to actually have to practice our war role for real, as it were. Well, I can remember one particular incident where I was working as the casualty evacuation aircraft in San Carlos Harbour, and while I was actually flying there I saw HMS Plymouth be attacked and got hit. And I was involved in taking the casualties off Plymouth, which weren't severe. There were about 5 or 6 people injured. And while we were winching those up, we got a radio call saying that there'd been another attack at the other end of the island. So having finished the work on Plymouth, we all sped down to the other end of the island to assist in moving the casualties back at that stage, which was a little bit difficult at the time because fuel was a problem. We didn't really have enough fuel to do the mission that we'd been asked to do. And there was also a bit of a problem with enemy aircraft still patrolling at the time. So that ended up being a bit of an exciting trip, which I ended up flying on just one engine of a 2-engine aircraft because I didn't have enough fuel for both the engines to keep going. And we actually got bounced by 2 Argentinian aircraft as well, with one engine and an aircraft full of injured people in the back.
And even in peacetime, there are battles with the elements and with natural disasters, which the pilots from Caldros are expected to fight in the course of normal duty. Inevitably, when standards are so demanding, some students don't make the grade. They find that they simply can't attain the levels of concentration and coordination essential to a naval pilot.
On average, perhaps a course of 16 will lose perhaps 1 guy. The majority are very, very disappointed, although occasionally we do get the odd character who is obviously finding it difficult within himself. He knows he's not doing well, he knows he's finding it difficult to fly, and in some cases is very frightened. When they are actually told that this is the last sortie and that they haven't made it, a great sense of relief comes over them. In fact, they know very well that they're not cut out to actually fly helicopters.
The challenge really is trying to get a guy who's never flown a helicopter before through to a stage where somebody can pin some wings on his sleeve after 5 months, which is a very big day for any student. And it's getting him up to scratch, to get him to that standard. And even though we see 10 students a year through here, each, it's still a challenge.
Leading up to wings, that's what it's all about. You know, obviously there's a lot of work to do after that. You're never fully trained. You never completely finished your training. But getting to wings is really going to be the big thing for all of us. The wings on the arm, it's tremendous.
The Sharks have yet to boast a royal performer at the controls, but they remain an elite among helicopter pilots, all the more so since their shows are given for the love of the craft and not for cash. Nevertheless, the display team represents an investment in the air of £2 million in helicopters alone. The only cloud on their horizon is the fear that a cost-conscious government might delete them from the skies.
This could well be the case. I desperately hope that won't happen. Obviously, I'm a very firm believer in the PR value that the Sharks get. Also, it's a great morale booster on 705 to have if you like, a premier team within the squadron. It gives us something other than pure instructing to think about and for the younger instructors to do. It gives them an opportunity to actually get out and about, something completely different from the normal job. So I desperately hope it won't happen, although the possibilities are that it might.
The Red Arrows may be faster, say the Sharks, but they can't hover, nor for that matter can they fly backwards. At the moment, the Caldros team seems set to go forward through a second decade of breathtaking displays at air days, fetes and festivals. And for each new course of students at 705 Squadron, the team is an inspiration that ensures no shortage of Sharks for the future.
I'm very lucky. It's a fantastic experience. I'm doing this for free. In fact, I'm getting paid to do it. I'd probably pay to do what I'm doing at the moment. It's so exciting. It's, especially on a day like today. Superb.
England.